whole issue of Muslim extremism, which I think has driven, frankly, or the understanding of it, or maybe even misunderstanding of it, has driven largely the Burn a Koran Day on 9/11 and all that sort of thing. Let's get into this issue. Let's dig a little deeper than normal into this issue. Bryan Fischer is with us. He's the director of issues analysis at the American Family Association, the host of Focal Point on AFR Talk. The website is renewamerican.com, afa.net. And Bryan, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Thom. Good to be with you again.
Thank you, and nice to have you back. You have said, or you wrote in a blog post at the American Family Association, that Germany is giving us a template. I'm quoting you, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. Germany is giving us a template on how we handle Muslims, just like we handle neo-Nazis. In other words, the way that Germany handles neo-Nazis. In Germany, it's against the law to be a neo-Nazi. It's not in the United States. They're widespread in our prisons as they are in theirs. I lived in Germany for a year. It's funny if you just sat in a bar and started going Deutschland, Deutschland über alles, the old marching song from the German army. The police could show up and arrest you. You could be arrested for simply singing a song in Germany, the Horst Wessel song and others. And you're suggesting we should do that with Muslims?
Well, what I'm suggesting, Thom, is it all depends how seriously we want to take anti-Semitism in the United States. In Germany, they take anti-Semitism very seriously. Virulent anti-Semitism destroyed that nation. If you want to look for the source of the most virulent anti-Semitism in the world today, it is found in Islam. So Germany's showing the way. If you want to give no quarter to anti-Semitism, you've got to take neo-Nazis seriously. If we want to stamp out anti-Semitism in the United States, we've got to take Islam seriously.
Well, first of all, agreed that you'll find it in radical Islam. I have friends who are Muslims who have no problem with Jews, who are not anti-Semites. And I have friends who are Christians who have no problem with Jews, who are not anti-Semites. And yet the Christian neo-Nazi movement in the United States is notoriously anti-Semitic, as is radical Islam, the Wahhabist movement that came out of Saudi Arabia that the Bush administration so aggressively supported, as did all the way back to the Eisenhower administration. American foreign policy has always been to support the most extreme of all the radical countries in the world, Saudi Arabia. And they have exported that Wahhabism in a variety of forms. But here's what I don't get is we in the United States had the experience of domestic terrorism. We had terrorists in the United States who, in the name of God, and in part in the name of stopping Jews and Catholics, by the way, but mostly going against black people, were killing people, were lynching people. It was called the Ku Klux Klan. And over a 100-year period or so, the Klan had a lot of power in America. The Klan was arguably as powerful in the United States as radical Islam is in Saudi Arabia in many ways, at least in the early 1900s when it had its resurgence as a result of the movie the Birth of a Nation, and in the late 1800s after during Reconstruction. And we dealt with the Klan not so much by law, although certainly there were arrests when they were explicitly committing crimes, but by ridiculing them, by pointing out how stupid they are, and by saying to the average white guy scared white guy who was joining the Klan, you don't need to do that. And now the Klan has been totally marginalized in the United States. Isn't that a more appropriate response to radical Islam than to say, what we're going to do is we're going to put you in jail for the way you're talking?
No, I'm absolutely with you, Thom. I think that's exactly what we ought to do with Islam. I think we ought to bring to
radical Islam or all of Islam.
Islam. I mean, Islam itself is anti-Semitic.
So you
put your finger right on it.
But by saying that all Islam,
Tom, put your finger right on it when you talked about Wahhabism from Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia funds 80% of the mosques in the United States of America. So Wahhabism is
and not just here, all over the world.
Form of Islam. Well, yeah, but 80% in the U.S. It's the most virulent form of Islam on the planet. It's virulently anti-Semitic.
First of all, let me just correct you, Bryan Fischer. You know that Saudi Arabia, if I may, sir,
80% of the mosques,
80% of the mosques in America may get some funding from Saudi Arabia, but they're not. Wait a second, Bryan.
They distribute Wahhabism, Saudi Arabia.
Bryan, pause it for a minute. You're filibustering me.
into every
okay.
single...
Bryan, I just put you on hold. I have got to finish a sentence here. Maybe 80% of the mosques in the United States are getting some funding from Saudi Arabia, and I deplore that, as do you. But 80% of the mosques in the United States are not entirely funded by crazed Wahhabists, and you know it, and I do. And by making all of Islam the same as the crazed Wahhabists, you are doing the exact same thing that the Klan did by making all African Americans the same as a few African Americans who are misbehaving, or as the neo-Nazis do by making all Jews there's not even a bad Jewish stereotype that I can pull up for that. I mean, you are doing the equivalent of anti-Semitism against Islam.
Thom, there may be moderate Muslims. There is no such thing as moderate Islam.
Oh, come on. Have you shown up at any of the mosques in the United States? Have you talked to any of these people?
Thom, have you read the 109 verses in the Quran that call for the shedding of infidel blood?
Have you read the book of Deuteronomy or the book of Joshua?
Thom,
it's an honest question, Bryan. Have you?
Yes, I have read those verses.
Then you
have
know
you
that Christianity and Judaism have
for the spilling of infidel blood of Christians and Jews. 109 verses in the Quran, Thom. That is mainstream Islam. That is Islam at its core. That's the essence of Islam.
And there are many more words in the Christian and Jewish Bibles calling for the death of people who don't worship the God of Christians and Jews,
Thom,
and there are in the
verse.
Quran calling
Thom,
for the death of people who don't worship the God of
Thom,
Allah.
Thom, I'm speaking to you as a Christian. Find me one verse in the New Testament that calls for Christians to kill infidels. Find me one verse.
Think not that I came to bring peace, I came to bring a sword. Jesus, quote, end quote.
And what he meant by that is if you stand for
the
you're
interpreting.
Christ, the sword is going to come against you.
And the guys who bomb abortion clinics hear sword. I've had them on this program quoting that verse. American terrorists quote Jesus as saying, I did not come to bring peace, I came to bring a sword. And
that's fine,
you know
Thom,
it, and I know it, that Christian terrorists have used that for over 1,000 years. That was what was justified the Crusades, for goodness sakes.
Well, Thom, every Christian leader condemns Christians who use that verse to support
and most
terrorism.
Muslim leaders after 9/11 were condemning the Wahhabists who attacked us. They held a candlelight vigil in downtown Tehran, Iran, on our behalf.
Well, Thom, ask them
people?
Ask them if they're willing to renounce the 109 verses that call for the shedding of infidel blood. Ask them if they're willing to renounce Hamas as a terrorist organization. Ask them if they are willing to believe and to say
this is why I asked you, Bryan, if you've ever visited a mosque. Moderate Muslims are as much renouncing those parts of their religion as you and I are renouncing. Bryan, will you renounce Jeremiah, Isaiah?
They are not renouncing those verses. They are not renouncing Hamas. They're not renouncing those verses in the Quran.
Are you renouncing Jeremiah?
No, I'm saying it doesn't apply
You're not.
to Christians
Okay.
anymore.
So you're not renouncing Jeremiah. They're not renouncing their Quran.
Thom, I'm talking to you as a Christian. Find me one verse in the New Testament.
Okay. Bryan Fischer. Bryan, we're out of time. AFA.net. Thanks, Bryan.
For more on this and other topics, please visit thomhartmann.com.